Okay, today we'll be going over table views. I'll show you an example of a table view. Let's see, go to messages. This is a table view, just a vertical list of items, basically. This is a table view cell. Kate Bell, John Appleseed. You can also go to the, contacts. This is a table view, but you can notice this has sections, like for A, B, and H. So if you scroll up, sections kind of stick at the top, like here. H sticks at the top. So we'll go over how to create these and how to pass data to them and how to delete them, stuff. Okay, so first of all, let's delete the storyboard because we don't do that here. Move to trash. Delete main. Let's go to app delegate. Do window equals my window, my screen. What's going on here? Check this. Alright, I'm just going to copy and paste these. It's the same setup every time, so I just forgot for him. That's fine. Okay, so this just sets our root view controller to view controller that we have over here. So to see that that's been set, I just set the background color like we do all the time. View dot background color equals dot blue, and let's run it. Open on new phone. Okay. Just click that. I want this option. So once it's loaded, it's just going to be a blue screen. Let's go to the storyboard here, and we just look at what table views are and what options we have to create table views. So you go to the library and type in table view. We can see we have a table view controller and a table view. So as we know, view controllers have a view they control. That's already given by the controller. So that's the same with the table view controllers. They also have a table view inside them that's already pre-made. You don't have to set it or anything. So we're going to be using this, but we're going to do it inside code. So let's go back to view controller and change UI view controller to a UI table view controller. Now once we do that, let's reload the app. We're going to see something different. Now we see there are these really faint lines in this, and those are basically the separators for each table view cell. So when we have no data in the table view and we haven't set any properties, it just shows this list of empty table view cells. So let's also give this a header, like a navigation bar at the top to just give it some title. So let's go here, back to our app delegate, and let's do nav equals UI navigation controller. And let's set the root view controller to our view controller. So we've gone over this before. This just makes a navigation controller with the view controller being the first controller it shows. Navigation controller creates a bar at the top, which has a title and like 2 buttons on the side. So then let's set this to nav. So the window is going to show nav, and the nav has our view controller. And we can go here and set a title for this. So title, let's just call this like a resume. It's going to have like jobs projects you've done or something. So we see here it says resume. And let's also give the table view a background color. So like I said, the UI table view controller comes with a table view already inside of it. So if we set the color to table view, see what changes. So the table view is red, and the view of the view controller is blue. So what we expect to see is, yeah, so it's all red. That's because the table view is above the view of the view controller. So we can just move this to set the table view's background color to white. If we run it, we'll just see a white screen with those lines. Okay. So now let's give it some data. So let's say this for now we want to have, let's say, a list of jobs you've done. So let's do let's call it var because we want to change this later. Var jobs equals, and it's going to be an array of strings for the jobs you've done. So let's just say like plumber, astronaut, and taxi driver. Very varied career this person had. Okay, and now that we've done that, if we run this, we'll see nothing happens because we've just created an array. But now we need to create cells based on the data this array has. So the way we do that is we do cell for row, cell for row at, and we see it auto-completes, and we get this function here that returns a UI table view cell. So UI table view cell, if we go back to, let's see, let's go to the contacts app. This is basically a table view cell, these names. So that's what we're returning here. So what this means is that it checks for whatever row it's rendering, what table view should be rendered there. Let's go back to okay. So let's do let cell equals UI table view cell. Again, because this function returns a UI table view cell, so we have to return that to return cell. Let's do, we have to set the text of the cell to say something. And that text has to be the same as whatever job is at this index path. So we can do cell dot text label dot text equals jobs. So what job do we want to get at this index path? So let's say we're rendering this first cell up here. We want to get at the job plumber, and that's at index 0 because this cell is at index 0. It's the first cell. So for that, we would just do like jobs at 0. But this function renders all these cells here. So the first one, second, third. So we have to do jobs.indexPath.row. Now if we run this, we'll see nothing shows up. I'll just prove that. Let's see, we have to do that. Because text label is optional. Nothing shows up because we also have to set another function called rows, number of rows in section. So let's say we just have, we're going to show 3 rows because we only have 3 jobs. So what we want to show is the number of jobs, is the number of rows we want to show. So we can return jobs.count. So we see now it shows all of our jobs. And it's in the order we had it here too. So this should make sense. We have this function, self_row@, and it sets the text for each of these table view cells to whatever index is at the row for the index path. Now the reason we can't just do index path is that index path has a field for section and row. So if you go here back to the contacts, we see that not every table view just has one section. So our previous, our app only has one section, but we can see here that this has multiple sections for A, B, H, T, and Z. So that's why we have to do dot row, because we can also do dot section. Okay, so now that we have that, let's just make it so that we can add some jobs to our list. So let's create a button inside view.load. So let button equals UI button. Let's set the title to add job. Normal, and then let's create a function to be called when we press the button. So then let's just add like a dummy job to the jobs array when we press the button. So jobs dot append new job. So then let's add a target to the button. Add target self selector is going to be the function we want to execute. Add job dot touch up inside. Now we have our button, but we have to display it somewhere. But let's say we want it to show up on top of this table view, and when we scroll down, the button also scrolls along with the table view. So what we can do is table view gives us a property we can change to add a view at the top. So we can do table view dot header table header view equals button. Let's give button a background color of red to green. Let's see if it shows up. So it doesn't show up. And why is that? Because we haven't given button a size. So we also have to do that. And let's just do frame. You don't want to mess with any auto layout constraints right now. So 0, 0 width. Just give it 100 width and 50 height. And we have our button. So let's press that job, but we're gonna see nothing happens. But this this new job is being appended to our array. Now I could print that if we want to prove it. But our table view isn't reloading even though we've added stuff to our jobs array. So we need to manually do that. Now one easy way we can do it is just to table view dot reload data. Now when we tap add job, we'll see the new job comes up. Well, that's a new job. But one downside to this reload data method is that it reloads every single cell in the table view. Because when we add a new job to this array, these previous cells aren't changing their data or their state. So why do we need to reload those? The answer is we don't. So let's not reload those. We can do table view dot insert row at index path. So we can do index path. So what index path is, it's a new index path that takes in a row and a section. So the section is going to be 0 because we just have one section here, and the row is going to be, let's do data dot count. Let's add an animation for left. It's not data, it's jobs. Let's run that. Now we have the job and we see there's a nice animation when it comes in, and it's not reloading these rows. So again, how this works is that we have our table view and we insert rows into it by at this index path. We can see it takes in an array of index paths, but for this case we're only inserting one piece of data for this because we're only appending one. But we can add more index paths here like that if you want. But we're inserting it at the last row in section 0 with this animation. Okay, so let's say we want to add a custom job, not like this generic new job thing. We can also create a text input to enter in our own job, and we can add that. So let's do that right now. So let job input equals this type of UI text view. Let's call it I equals UI text input, or not text input, UI text view. Let's return I. So this is a closure. We've used these before. This is a function that returns a value, and that function is executed here, and that value is set to whatever this is. So let's give it a placeholder. Sorry, what I'm trying to use this view controller. Yeah, okay, it's UI text field. UI text field. Text view is not the right one. Okay, so we can do I dot placeholder. Let's do enter job. And let's also give it a size. So iframe equals cg rect. Let's give it some position and some width. Let's do 100 and height 15. Background color. Let's use a color literal. Let's pick one. And so we want to have both of these views at the top of our table view. So the text input is going to be above our button. So it would be like up here somewhere, and add job would be under it. So we can't add two header views, so we have to combine them into one view and set that as our table header view. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's create a container view to put those in. So we can do let container UI view, and then container. Let's add the button. And then the job input. And then let's set our header to container. We'll also give some dimensions to the container. So dot frame equals cg rect 0, 0, and the width we want it to be the whole screen. So we have screen dot main dot bounds dot width. Height, let's say 100, and let's turn this. So our job input is showing up, but our button is missing. You guys know why? Why is it missing? It doesn't have to do with the table view. It's the way we laid out our views. Yeah, what's wrong with it? Yeah, that's it. So we can just change the button to like 50. Run this again, we'll see that it moves down. So yeah, so our job is here, and then we move it down 50 because the height of this is 52. Now we can make this width the same as the screen. So normally you probably wouldn't use frames, but just for just doing this quickly, I don't want to mess with auto layout constraints. So if you run this again, we'll see that the enter job spans the whole screen, and so does the button. All right, so we can enter our job here, and it shows up. But when we add a job, it's still a new job. So let's set that to whatever text we enter up here. So we can do that by appending whatever is inside the job input. So job input.text, and let's force unwrap it. Do student add job, and student comes up. Just do like a human. Okay. So now we have a way to add data into our table view, but now let's try to add some sections to it, like the one in the contacts app. So let's have a section for maybe jobs and one section for projects. So let's create a sections array. There's lots of different ways you can do this, but for now we'll just create different arrays for the data in the section and the section headers and so on. So var sections equals, so the first section is going to be jobs, second section is going to be projects. So we could combine our, so yeah, let's just do that. So we can change jobs to data. And so inside this, the first array is going to have our jobs, and the second array is going to have our projects. So let's say this project is going to be an app, and this other project, just say it's a book. Okay. If we run this, this isn't going to work. It's going to crash. Or it's not even going to run, maybe. Yeah. So because jobs doesn't exist, let's change that. So when we add the job, we can't just add it to the jobs array because that doesn't exist. We have to add it to data and the first array inside our data array. So we have to do data 0 append, then data 0 dot count, because the jobs array is inside the first index of the data array, because that's associated with the first index of the section array. Same with the projects. The second index of the data is the same as the second index of the sections. So we also want to change number of sections, because now we don't just have one section, we have two. So we have to change that. So we do return sections dot count. And then number of rows in section isn't going to be the same for each section, because this has different amounts of data than this. This has 3, this has 2. So we have to override this. We have to do data add section dot count. Because this section number is whatever section we're inside. So we have to get the count of, let's say, section 0, which is 3, or section 1, which is 2. And now for the cell at row index path, we have to change this because our sections can be different. So we can't just do jobs here. So if we do data index path dot section, and so this part selects our section here. So let's say the section is 0, it selects this, and then we go inside that section and select a row inside that section. So let's say we're at row 2, so it would be section 0 and then 1, 2, or index 0, 1, astronaut. Okay, so if I've done this correctly, if we run it, let's see what we get. So we get all of our data, but let's add a job. Let's see what happens. Teacher. So it adds it inside the correct section, it looks like. It's not at the end. But it doesn't have the section headers that we see inside the contact app. So like, let's go back, look at that. So it doesn't have these A or B. In our case, it would be jobs and projects. So we have to change that by initializing our view controller differently. Because if we go here, let's see, A equals view controller, we see it comes with a option for style. So if we do dot grouped, section headers and footers do not float. And then if we do plain, they float when it's scrolled. So that's the type we see in the context app. So we want to do plain. So just copy this and go back to our app delegate and replace this one with that. Now we also have to do section text for section header, section title. Okay, I'm just going to look at, I can't remember all these functions. Okay, title for header and section, there we go. So title for header and section. So we return section, and then the section we're inside. So let's run this, and we'll see it says projects and jobs. You can kind of see it. Jobs is bolded, and it's also gray, and projects is blue. So if we scroll, we'll see that the section header sticks at the top, like that. Go back here and change it to grouped. It's not going to stick to the top. See, so if we go here, scroll, it just scrolls up. So you can choose whichever way you want, but center job shows up. But we'll just change it to plain. Okay, so we've shown data in multiple sections in our table view. Well, let's say we want to interact with the cell. Let's say if we tap on a cell, it takes us to a different screen. So we can also do that. Like if we tap on a cell, we can see it turns gray. So the table view does have that functionality. Okay, so we can do did select row app. So this is another built-in function the table view controller provides for us. so we can do something whenever it's selected. So let's just push in a copy of the same view controller onto the navigation stack whenever we tap a cell. So navigation controller dot push view controller, and just do view controller animated true. This is gonna be kind of odd, but just to show that we can interact with the cell. You can just keep on going on forever. You can go back. And that's how we interact with a cell, just selecting a cell. Okay, now let's say we want to delete something from this table view. Maybe if we've added it by mistake. So we can look at an example of that in our messages app. So we'll see if we swipe from the right, it has an option for delete. If you tap it, it goes away. So let's go back here and let's add that same functionality because we can look at it right now, it doesn't do anything. So let's do trailing swipe actions. We can also have reading swipe actions, which show up if you swipe from the left to the right. And they show up on the left side. Maybe the messages app has an example of that too. See? No, it doesn't. But you can do that too. So let's do, we see we have to return a UI swipe action configuration. That's basically just like an array of UI swipe actions, and we'll see how to make things. Let's do let remove action equals UI swipe action. It's UI contextual action. And then the style is destructive because removing is destructive action that basically just sets the default color to red. So we can give it our title of remove. And we want some handler for this. I'm just going to copy this code here. So what this handler does is it takes in an action, a view, and a completion handler. So this is just like a function that executes whenever the action is tapped. So when you swipe, and let's say you tap remove, this is what's going to happen. So we see that we get an error here because we have to override it. And we also have to return our action, so we can do return UI swipe action configuration, and we see it takes in an array of actions which are of type UI contextual action, so we can put in remove action. And then what I just did inside this handler here is that we have our data array and we access our section that we're inside, and then we remove the last item in that array. And then we just delete the row at that array instead of rewriting on the table. So let's run it. Now when we swipe, remove, it goes away. That's pretty neat. But there's also, actually, this doesn't, here, let's see what happens with this. It looks like it works, but let's print data and see what's actually happening. So we have to do self.data because it's inside a closure. Does anyone see why this is wrong? rows are being removed. Like if I remove plumber, it's going to be removed from the table view. But what's wrong with this code? Well, this removes it. It should, right? So is that correct? Yeah. Yeah. So if we remove this, we see it removed. Yeah. So if we remove app here, you remove book, not app. So because it just removes the last one. So we want to, yeah, remove at int. So the index is going to be index path dot row. So now if we remove it, we see that plumber gets removed. If we remove app, app gets removed. So that's just to kind of show that even though it might look like your table views deleting rows, it might not be changing the source data correctly. Let's look at another example of that. So let's just do, instead of table view dot delete rows, let's just do insert rows. So this is valid. It's not going to show any like syntax errors, but let's run the app and see what happens. So what we're doing here is we're removing the index from the data array, and then we're trying to insert rows with that same index. So if we try to run this, we remove it, it's going to crash. It says invalid update. The number of rows contained in a section after the update 2 must equal the number of rows contained in that section before the update, and minus all of this. So this just means that we're trying to insert a row that's not actually there in our data array, because the sizes of the data array and the table view have to be consistent. So as long as those sizes are consistent, it's not going to show any errors. So if we do delete rows, it's going to be fixed again. But again, it only checks for the sizes. It doesn't check if we've actually removed and deleted or inserted the correct row. All right, so there's actually a ton more we can go into about table views. Like let's say you wanted to make a separate table view, just a table view, not a table view controller. You can create a class for that. But then to have all these extra functions for it, so we'll just say we have a class, class custom table view to UI table view. And I'm just going to try to get this this function here. Let's see which one. Cell for row at. Cell for row at. It's going to show up. But let's say we want to do like trailing swipe. We see it doesn't show up. Trailing swipe. Because we have to implement also table view delegate and also UI table view data source. But the UI table view controller already implements all of these, so that's why we can use all these built-in functions, and that's why they autocomplete, and that's why the trailing thing here didn't show up here. But that's also good if you want to reuse your table views. So let's say you're showing one table in one screen, one view controller, you want to show it inside another view controller too. You probably want to create your own table view so you can reuse that table view in both screens instead of copying that code into both view controllers. And also something else we didn't get into was creating your own table view cells. So you can create your own table view cells by just subclassing them. So you can do like class custom cell y table view cell. You can subclass it like that, and you can set its properties and everything the same way you do up here. So that way, maybe you can create a table view that looks like this with custom views like a circle, this arrow on the side, this date. So you can also do that. And there's also a thing called like DQ cell, which lets you reuse table view cells. Unlike this, because what this does here is it creates a new table view cell every single time the table view is rendered. And if you think about it, that might not be the best way to do it, because you have to recreate all the views and initialize the table view cell every single time you have to reload some data. But if you do like DQ table view cell, it just sets the data, the table view cell that you've created. So again, it might not be too clear what I've said right now, but you can look it up. We might go over that in a future tutorial or lesson. All right, so that's it for today.